In 2019, the Indian government got rid of Article 370, which gave Jammu and Kashmir, which is in Pakistan, special standing. This means that Qadir, a general in the Pakistani army, was angry and wanted to get back at India. He did this by working with Jim, a former RA agent. Research and Analysis Wing, spy who was in charge of the secret terrorist group, Outfit X. Jim, who had been waiting for Qadir, accepted the offer right away after it was given to him. After 3 years, a lot of guns were sold in Africa. One of Jim's team members was told to get some weapons for the task. Someone told them all of a sudden that they had to do something else in the prison. There was a man named Pathan in the prison. Jim's guys shut him up there and beat him up. One of Jim's people came up to him. When Pathan saw him, he yelled at him and told him he would be sorry for betraying their country. When he saw that Pathan was still alive, he was shocked. Pathan then asked him about someone named Rubina, but instead of answering, he pointed his gun at him and was about to shoot him. Pathan had been waiting for that moment all along. He charged, beat everyone in the room, and set the place on fire. Pathan took over the plane that brought Jim's men there and flew away. In the meantime, in India's New Delhi, Nandini was working when she suddenly saw Rubina, the girl Pathan had talked about earlier, on a security camera in France. He asked for a ticket right away so that he and one of her helpers could go to France. She used to have Pathan, who was her most dependable contact, but she hadn't heard from him in 2 years. Then she told her helper that Pathan had a life-threatening accident 2 years ago and had to stay in the hospital for weeks. Since then, she hasn't heard anything about him, and she didn't know that he was in jail in Africa. 2 years ago, Nandini met Pathan, who was still in the hospital but still working on his body. He said he couldn't allow his body to get weaker. Nandini gave Pathan an important task. The goal was for Pathan to get together all of the retired RA agents. Pathan was able to get all of the former RA members together and bring them directly to Nandini. After that, Nandini asked Colonel Luthra to join the team that Pathan had put together with the former RA officers. This team was called Joint Operation and Covert Research, JOCR. Then they talked about the attack in Dubai that Outfit X was planning. They talked about how to protect Dubai from the plan of Outfit X because the President of India was going to be there for a science meeting. The day of the mission had come. Everyone was ready to do their job and guard the President of India and all the experts at the conference. Colonel Luthra gave the order, so the other JOCR officers went there to make sure it was safe. On their way to the event, President and the other expert were attacked. The members of Outfit X were the ones who beat the team that got them. When Colonel Luthra heard the news, he called Pathan right away to tell him what was going on. In the meantime, the member of Outfit X had taken 2 experts hostage. Pathan tried to catch the people from Outfit X who had taken the scientist, but their car crashed into his and made him lose control. When his car flipped, he and his friends were still inside. Then, a member of Outfit X came over and said hello. He turned out to be Jim. Pathan was shocked to see that the person he was fighting was an Indian and also had the RA badge on him. Jim said he still had a problem with Nandini because she had hurt him. Pathan was surprised to find out that Nandini was connected to Jim in some way. Pathan's car was about to blow up, so Jim left it. Pathan tried to get himself and his friends out of the car before it exploded, but one of them was stuck, so he had to let him go. Pathan was able to save the other scientist, Drive, Faruqui, while Jim was able to take Drive, Sahani hostage and put him in the plane. Jim and Pathan fought while the truck was moving. Pathan took a lot of hits, but he kept fighting while one of the planes picked up Jim. Pathan could not stop him, so he gave up trying to catch him. When Pathan got back to India, he told everyone about his task and how he hadn't been able to save Drive, Sahani from Outfit X. Colonel Luthra then told him about Jim, who was one of the best RA spies before he chose to betray his country. During one of Jim's missions, he and his wife were taken hostage in Somalia. They tried to talk India into saving them, but India didn't care. Instead, it made the Somali bomber kill his pregnant wife in front of him, which broke his heart and made him want to get even with the country. Pathan said that what he did couldn't be right because he had betrayed his country and put the president's life at risk. He then asked his team to find out where Jim was. His team told him that Jim was connected to Rubina, who turned out to be an ex-ISI, inter-service intelligence. Then, they found out where she was, which was in Spain. Pathan went to Spain, where he met Rubina at a party. He kept an eye on her while he looked for proof against her. He was surprised to find Jim in the same place as her while he was watching her. Pathan was caught by surprise by Jim's men, who pointed guns at him. Then Jim went up to him and made fun of him for still being loyal to India. He even told Pathan about each member of Outfit X and invited Pathan to join, but Pathan turned him down. He said he was different from Jim and that he would never join him. Jim's chopper came to get him at that moment. Seeing that, Jim told his men to kill Pathan right away. All of Jim's men were about to kill Pathan when Rubina jumped in and helped him beat all of Jim's men fast. Rubina, who had been trained in martial arts, was able to stop some of Jim's men long enough for them to escape. However, when Pathan saw blood coming from Rubina's stomach, she passed out. Rubina finally woke up after being out for almost 18 hours. Pathan then went up to her and asked her a few questions. Then she told him why she had helped him. She also told him about Rockbij, which was a code word for a modified smallpox virus that had to be killed to save humanity. Rubina told Pathan that the virus was in Russia, and she asked Pathan to help her get the virus. Pathan then told Nandini everything he had learned from Rubina and asked her for permission to go to Russia to get the virus. Nandini gave him permission, but she told him to be careful because she didn't want Jim or Issy to get the virus. When Rubina and Pathan got to the hotel, they made sure to stay right across from the building where Rockbij was being held. They also came up with a plan to get the virus back. Rubina told everyone what she knew about the virus and helped come up with a plan. It was finally time for the mission. They got to the building where the virus was being kept. Pathan and Rubina were able to get into the building and into the room where the virus was kept without much trouble. Pathan put the code into the bug after that. When he finally got the virus, Rubina threw Pathan a rope to climb up right away. Rubina burned the rope and turned on Pathan as soon as she had the virus in her hands. He was shocked to learn that Jim had used Rubina as a friend to get closer to Pathan and get the virus from him. Pathan met Nandini. The Russian embassy caught him and put him in jail. Nandini was upset, so she left Pathan right away. She claimed she didn't care about him and left. Pathan was about to be moved to a bigger jail, so he was put on a special train with other tough criminals right away. He was put there so that the other people in jail could kill him. He had no choice but to deal with them all. He got hit a few times by other prisoners, which hurt him. When Pathan was trapped, one of his old friends, Tiger, came out of nowhere to help him. Pathan and Tiger were able to beat all of the prisoners. They also got out of the train in time before it fell into the river because a helicopter that had tried to hit them earlier had broken the rail. Back in the present, Nandini told his helper the end of the Pathan story. Nandini knew that Pathan was still living, and when she got to a house in Paris, Pathan was there with a gun to her head. Nandini told him that the only reason she sent Pathan to Russia was to train him for when Tiger came to save him. She then gave him a picture of Rubina that she had found in Paris. She told Pathan to come see her and asked her to take responsibility for what she had done to him. Rubina was shocked to see that Pathan was following her and had a gun pointed at him. Then, Pathan took Rubina somewhere they could talk. Pathan asked her to explain why she had lied to him so many times. Rubina said she did it because of Rockbij, but she later found out that Jim had also betrayed her. He and the Pakistani Army General Qadir were planning to use the virus to get back at India. She didn't know that Jim would betray her, so she begged Pathan to believe her. Pathan agreed, but only if she told him where the lab was where they changed the virus. Soon after that, Rubina met Jim, who took her to the lab to meet Dr. Sahani. They were able to change the virus and put it in a ball-shaped device. Dr. Sahani told Jim to change his plans, but he didn't listen. He was filled with anger and a desire for revenge for his country. Jim told Drive Sahani to get the virus out of there, but Rubina struck Jim's men right away and told Drive Sahani to give the virus to her. When she was getting ready to leave, Jim showed up and struck her right away. Then he shot and killed Drive Sahani and ran away with the virus he had brought in his backpack. Pathan tried to catch Jim when he saw him running away with the virus, but Jim's men, who were trying to protect their boss, slowed him down. Jim dropped the virus by mistake, and Rubina came to help. She took the virus and ran away from Jim before he could stop her. Jim couldn't let her get the virus, so he threw his bomb at the ice below her and made it burst. She jumped into the icy water while still holding the virus in her hands. Pathan came right away to help her, took her to his office, and gave the virus to Colonel Luthra. Suddenly, Nandini got a video call from Jim, who told her that the virus had already spread in her lab and gotten on the suit they were wearing. He also said that Pathan's other bug was just a fake to trick people. When Nandini heard this, he asked for all the main doors to the lab to be locked and for all his men who had not been infected to leave. Soon, Pathan and Colonel Luthra came. Nandini told him what had happened and what Jim had said earlier. Pathan felt bad when he heard this, especially when he saw Nandini and the other sick lab workers' faces in the room. As he watched the lab get destroyed and Nandini and the other lab workers die, tears ran down his face. Jim then used a video call to talk to Pathan and Luthar and ask them to do what he asked. Jim said that he would use the bug to destroy big towns. Jim gives India a deadline of 24 hours to get its troops out of Kashmir and let Pakistan take over the area. Jim ended the video call and told them to follow his rules. Jim then told Kadi that he had spread the virus in a town as part of an experiment, but Kadir tried to use the deal to make money, which made Jim angry. He choked Kadir, making him beg for forgiveness. Rubina and Pathan, on the other hand, were able to get some of Jim's clothes and sneak into the place where Jim and Kadir were. Jim was really surprised when Pathan and his team showed up, especially when he saw Rubina siding with Pathan. But Jim, who had more than one plan, just smiled and said that none of the plans he had made would fail. He told Kadir to go after Pathan and his group. There was no way to avoid a fight. During the fight, one of Pathan's men was killed, which gave Jim a chance to get away. In the meantime, Rubina learned where Jim planned to spread the virus. She also killed Kadir, who was trying to attack her, while Pathan chased after Jim, who had run away. Rubina was surprised to find that Jim had not put the virus in the place she thought he had. She told Pathan about it right away and asked him to find out the truth from Jim. While he was trying to beat Jim, Rubina tried to find out something by questioning one of Jim's men who was still alive. She finally found out that the virus was supposedly in a plane with the flight code LT-72 and that it would be spread to New Delhi on that trip. When Colonel Luthra heard the news, he told the pilot of the plane to stop the landing right away. Jim and Pathan were fighting each other in another place. Jim showed Pathan the device he used to control the flight of the LT-72. When Pathan saw this, he struck him and tried to take the device from him. Pathan kept striking Jim until he was finally stabbed by Jim. Pathan had planned it that way so he could steal the device from Jim without him knowing. Jim tried to attack Pathan when he saw that the device had been taken from him, but he was thrown and had to hang for his life. Pathan was able to stop Jim from doing his job. On the other hand, Jim had to fall, and when he hit the ground, he died. Pathan took Jim's badge and put it in Nandini's office. Soon after, Colonel Luthra came and told him how proud he was of him. He then gave Pathan and Tiger a new job to do. He then read the paper while Colonel Luthra gave him instructions. Then, Pathan talked to Tiger about the plan. Tiger didn't think twice about taking on the task.